Hello, and in today's video, I'm going to give you some of the advantage of buying a home versus renting a home. Now, not everybody is made out for buying a home. Clearly, everybody should not buy a home. If you're not able to save, you might not be cut out for buying a home. If you're not able to do some small repairs, you might not be able to. And if you can't do repairs, you still got to be able to save up some money for those unexpected repairs to hire somebody else to do it. So not everybody is made out for buying a home, but most people are, and most people can do it. And so in this video, I'm going to give you some of the advantages of buying a home versus renting a home. All right, so one of the advantages of buying a home is inflation. When you buy a home, generally you'll have a fixed interest rate which keeps your monthly payment the same for 15 years, 30 years, depending on how long you do the mortgage. So it's gonna have a fixed rate, fixed payment for several years until you have that paid off. When you're renting, you have to consider inflation. You've all probably rented a house. I have. You may start off with your rent at $625 a month, $700 a month. I know that's a little bit low compared to some other areas. If you're in California, your rent's going to be a lot more, but here in the South Bend, Indiana area, $600 to $700, $800, somewhere in there is what typically a rent may be. So you may start off paying $800 a month for rent. Next year it goes up to $825. The year after that it's $850. Then you're up to $875. And if you do this for 10 years, you're into couple $100, thousands of dollars in rent that you could have saved if you were buying a home because you have a fixed rate every month. So let's talk about that inflation price versus renting and buying just a little bit more here. I'm going to give you a quick formula. This isn't set in stone, but this is a good formula to figure out how much rent you're paying, and if you're paying that same amount of rent, how much home you could afford. So if you're paying, let's take my little calculator here. So if you're paying $700 a month times rent, what you want to do is take your rent times 200. So always use that formula 200. So $700 a month per rent times 200 equals $140,000. So if you're paying $700 in rent, renting a home or an apartment right now, times that by 200, that's telling you you can afford what your payment would get you at the $700 a month would get you roughly $140,000 house. Now again, we're in the South Bend, Indiana area, and the average home in this area is about $146,000 in St. Joe County. So you can buy a very nice home for the $700 a month you were paying in rent. Now going back to that inflation we talked about, when you buy a home and you bought it for $700, your payment is going to stay the same roughly for 30 years, 15 years. So you're always gonna stay with that $700 a month. Let's say in 3 years, your rent has jumped up to $775 a month. So $775, remember the 200 is what you multiply that by, so $775 times 200. Now you're at $155,000 is what you would have been able to pay for a home. So it really jumps up, and you're gonna keep paying that rent increase every year after year after year. Where buying a home, it's a fixed rate, a fixed amount for 30, 15 years. So that's one big advantage of buying a home. Another really big advantage when buying your home versus renting is you can make a home your own. When you're renting an apartment, yeah, you may do a little bit of painting and stuff like that just to keep it up. But when you're buying a home, you can renovate it, you can remodel it, you can add on, you can fence in the yard, you can put in a pool, you can do whatever you want to it. It is your home. So that's a huge advantage. So if you want to make this home your own, maybe you want to redo the bathroom, your kitchen, you can do that, and it makes financial sense to do that in most cases. Now, when you're renting a home, you don't want to go ahead and renovate and put in new carpet or put in new laminate flooring. The landlord should pay for that. And if you do that, you're kind of just throwing your money away and putting more value into the house that's going to go right to that landlord. So it doesn't really make financial sense to make those home improvement projects when you're renting a home, but it really makes sense when you're buying a home. So one thing though I really got to caution you is you don't want to constantly be renovating your home over and over what you want to do is make sure you're saving money for retirement. You want to think long term. So as long as you're putting money in to the future for retirement, then go ahead and renovate as often as you want. But if you're not, you don't want to renovate every year and just keep putting that money into renovating constantly and over improving your home when you're not saving for retirement. So make sure you're just not over renovating all the time, and you want to think ahead in the future for your retirement days. But that's one thing you can do when you're buying a home is you can renovate, you can add an fence, you can do all kinds of stuff to make it your own. So when you're buying a home, another thing to think about is you don't have to deal with those cruddy, slimy landlords anymore. I'm not saying that all landlords and all homeowner, rental management places are cruddy and hard to deal with. I was a landlord for a long time, and I still have one or two rental houses, so they're not all bad. I'm not saying I'm bad, but what you don't have to do is deal with anybody else. When you're dealing with a landlord, there's the chance they might sell that house. So you did a 1-year lease, and you're fine for that 1 year, but they could go ahead and sell that house the next year and not renew the lease. Then you've got to hurry and figure out a place to go. Or when you're dealing with a landlord, you may have a repair, and the landlord's typically responsible for that, but they could be super slow at getting to that repair. Maybe you have a drippy sink that's just annoying you, or very low water pressure, something like that, and it's just annoying you, and you've told that landlord 5-10 times and they still haven't fixed it. That's a little out of your control. When you're buying a home, you can do that whenever you want. Now, when you're buying a home though, that expense is your expense. So you've got to think about that. You got to be able to save for unexpected repairs like that. And you've got to think about, okay, what contractor do I want to use to fix this plumbing leak or to fix this roof? Things like that. So there's some more responsibility, that's for sure, when buying a home. But you no longer have to rely on what that landlord is going to do and how long they're going to take to get to the repairs and things like that. All right, so besides having a fixed monthly cost for 15, 30 years, having control to make renovations to your house and improvements to your house, and not dealing with another landlord, another really big benefit is appreciation. So generally, and it's not guaranteed, that's for sure, but generally homes do appreciate over time. And even if they're not, if they're not appreciating, you're paying down the equity on your home and increasing your equity on your home. So let's say you're paying $800 a month for 30 years. Well, at 30 years, as long as you haven't taken a second mortgage, you have a home that is yours, and you can stop making that payment. You'll just have to pay your property taxes. That home is yours, and you're going to save some money. Now, if you decide to sell it in 15 years, you're going to have some equity to go ahead and sell that home and hopefully put that down payment down, a larger down payment down for another home. So you're building equity, you're building some money into that home over time, where when renting a house, you're really just building equity in for the landlord that owns the property. So there's some huge tips. There's lots of other advantages to buying a home, but let me jump into some advantages of renting a home too. So let's do that right now. Okay, so here's a couple advantages of renting a home, because again, at the beginning of this video, I said that not everybody is up for buying. Some people need to rent, some people will rent for the rest of their lives, things like that. So one advantage of renting a home is speed. Sometimes it can take months to buy a home. You got to get a lot of paperwork together. You've got to get pre-approved. You got to do the home search. You got to negotiate the price. You got to close. So that can take minimum 30 days. Normally it's going to take a couple months. When you're buying or renting a home, you can generally do this pretty quickly. If you find a house or an apartment that's empty and ready to move into, you can just go ahead and put in that rental application, maybe show them some check stubs, maybe they do a quick background check, and bam, in a week, you could be moving into your rental apartment or home. So if you need to get into a place quickly, renting may be a good solution for you, because you can get into it much quicker than buying a home. All right, so I forgot I started making coffee before I started this video, so I'm gonna get it real quick. And it's probably not even hot anymore. All right, so another big advantage for renting is convenience. Not only can you move, I gotta move locations because my wife just started the hair dryer, so hold on a second. All right, right, so I had to move back into my den because the hairdryer, I'm sure, was too loud, and you probably heard it there in the background. All right, so it's barely warm anymore. So another big advantage of renting a home is the convenience of not having to do a bunch of repairs and worry about contractors. Like I talked a little bit ago, when you're buying a home, you've got to figure out what contractor you use, you got to schedule them and stuff. When you're renting a home in an apartment building, they'll just send up the maintenance guy to do the quick repair. If you're in an apartment, they're gonna mow the grass. You don't have to worry about lawn care. They're gonna go ahead and fix that dishwasher that broke or the tree limbs that fell down. They're gonna, plow the driveways for you, and they're gonna snow blow the driveways if you're in the winter area. So there are some advantages of renting. You don't have to worry about that maintenance as much as you do when you're buying a home. When you're buying a home, you've got to be the one that does those repairs or hire somebody to do the repairs. When you're renting a home, the landlord generally should take care of that for you. Now, some landlords aren't great about getting timely responses, so you got to stay on them, so that kind of sucks. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to have to worry about repairs at all, then maybe renting is better for you. All right, flexibility. If you're the kind of person that loves to move around, needs to relocate for work all the time, or is just young and wants to go out and adventure for months, or moves around the country for a while, then renting really probably is the solution for you for that. Because when you're renting, you can live at one place for a year, maybe 6 months. Maybe you can find a landlord renting a house or an apartment that will do month-to-month rent. And then if you want to go to Italy or Europe or Alaska or wherever you want to go to spend a couple more months, then renting is probably a better option for you. Now, if you're thinking about staying someplace long-term, then buying is probably a better option for you. But flexibility is a big part of renting. You can get up and move to another city, another part of a town, things like that. So if you want flexibility, then renting might be a better option for you. Oh, that's too low. So I drank that super fast because it wasn't very warm, because I let it sit for half the video. All right, so a couple other quick advantages of renting is upfront costs. So when you're buying a home, there's down payment, there's closing costs, there's moving fees and stuff like that. So if you don't have a ton of upfront money, then renting is probably a better option for you. So that's one quick advantage. And another advantage is most of the time when you're renting, especially an apartment, a lot of the utilities are included. When you're buying a home, you're going to be paying for most all of those utilities. So if you don't have a lot of extra money and you just want utilities and simplified life, then renting might be the best option for you. So there's a couple tips right there. Check out some of my other videos, and if you're in the South Bend, Indiana, Mishawaka, Granger, Elkhart, Indiana areas, I'd be happy to sit down and help you get started with home ownership. Give me a call. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video.